What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Part 2 of the DFS OGs podcast, finishing up our Week 13 look at all the afternoon games, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, and of course, we'll answer some user questions, give you some hot takes along the way, and of course, we will get the Chop update on the famous season-long team. Let's see if you can put a number 2 into that win column. But we'll get to that. Let me bring in my boys here, Notorious, Head Chopper. Guys, how we doing? Noto, let's get started with you.
Oh, doing really well. Can't believe the season is, nearing an end.
Crazy. We know Chop's not in competition for the playoffs, but, a lot of people are in season-long leagues. So, Chop, I don't know if you want to give the update now, later. We can hang on to it, but how we doing, brother?
I'm doing good. And, we can get an update here. I'll give you a little update. I was in the process of tanking for Todd, and then somehow my team put up a 163 this weekend and won by 40 points. I don't know how that happened. The other guy's competing for the playoffs. Actually, he's like the second seed, and I beat him. I don't know how. I don't know why, but it put a damper on my Todd Gurley. But then I got to thinking about it. You know what? Saquon Barkley might not be a bad consolation prize next year. So maybe I just, for the sake of pride, maybe I'll pull out and get out of the cellar, pull up to, second to last place, so I don't have that asterisk by my name forever, and I get Saquon instead. So I think I have a new goal: just get out of the cellar this year and get Saquon next year. That's a good slogan, Saquon for cellar or something like that. I could do something with it. But I also want to update. I know you guys were. Well, I know Beer, you're heavily invested in the best balls over there on Play Draft. Man, I missed out on one of the playoffs by 4 points because Tyreek and Kareem Hunt were on bye this week. Gosh darn it, man. I missed out on one of those advancing to the next stage by 4 measly points, man. That's just terrible stuff.
I can beat that. I was looking through my scores, and a lot of 2 out of 12s, and when I look at it, literally less than a point. It was like 0.16 or something, second place in that bad boy. So moved a few of them on. That's all you need. Take a few shots at it, but yeah, those sting. And we're proud of you, buddy. You got another win. And I don't know why when you're trying to win, you lose. When you're trying to lose, you win. But, maybe next year with Saquon, you can straighten the ship there and take home a little championship hardware. But let's move on to the DFS here, guys. Got a bunch of afternoon games again. No teams on bye this week. So a lot of action here. First game, not too exciting here, Derek. Jets and Tennessee to lead us off. The Jets have just been a mess. Got throttled at home by the Patriots. Tennessee went to Houston, took one on the chin there. So who responds? Maybe none of the above here. Any interest in DFS here, Jets and Titans?
Yeah, very little interest here. Total very low. It's currently set at 40, so not a ton of interest. Josh McCown, sounds like he hurt his thumb, so going to have to wait and see if he plays. If he does play, I do think you can look at some of these pass catchers as, cheap guys. We saw Enunwa and Curse. They're both decent values. Anderson's only 3,500, so all three of them you can sprinkle throughout your lineups. As far as the Titans are concerned, it's really just been, one-man show over the last month or so, and that's Corey Davis. Just continues to have some pretty big games. He let everyone down against the Colts, but other than that, 12, 28, 24 fantasy points, 3 of his last 4 games. Good spot at home against the Jets. I think you can certainly go to him at his price point. Not really sure what to expect from Dion Lewis. I keep playing him at the cheap price point, especially over on FanDuel. He's dirt cheap over there, but this could be a game where they lean on Derrick Henry a little bit more. And Henry, only 3,800. So if you're looking for a really deep tournament play, you can maybe look at him. And Johnny Smith's been getting more and more involved. I know he doesn't see a ton of targets, but those targets have been valuable. He scored in 3 of the last 4 weeks. So not a ton to like here, but there are some interesting values if you're building multiple lineups.
Yeah, Johnny at 3,300. I don't mind that one. So you could pluck some value out of here. I don't disagree there. Chop, thoughts here, Jets and Titans?
Yeah, since Dion Lewis was the chalk player 3 weeks ago, he has been a major bust all 3 weeks. So I don't know, man. I'll take a look at the ownership percentage. If it's way down, maybe I go back to Dion Lewis here. But Corey Davis's team, as far as I'm concerned, that's the man. So, in fact, I got a nice little signed mini helmet here from Corey Davis. I just got in the mail. That's pretty nice stuff. So,
directly from Corey? That sounds nice.
Actually, my dad got it for me. He likes to spend his time now on eBay just sniping people for I don't know. It's his thing, man. Let him have his fun. So he got it for me. But Corey Davis's team, I'll go back to that route. If Josh McCown plays and is healthy, then he'll be I'll have a little sleeper connection here of McCown to Robbie Anderson. I've just been waiting on the right matchup here to get Robbie Anderson healthy and getting paired up with McCown. And I think this is the week, is assuming both of them practice all week and end up being healthy. I want some McCown to Robbie Anderson as my off the radar kind of, every week somebody will step up and have a performance where the quarterback to receiver is kind of lower owned and can win you a tournament. I think that could be the pairing this week that wins you a tournament.
And the targets have been there for Anderson. He's got 22 targets over the last 3 weeks. You just don't have a lot of results, but the connection was there last season. McCown, he's the old DGAF. He's just going to throw it down and throw it up in the air. So I don't mind that call at all. Titans have struggled with the deep ball this season. So good call there at 3,500. All right, next game, Kansas City going to Oakland. Big favorites here, Chop, 15-point favorites. So I guess we have to address it from that standpoint. Do we worry that they're just going to roll this team, and kind of take their foot off the gas, or is there going to be enough meat on the bone where they do roll this team and you want those Chiefs in your lineup? So I think this is a big time decision to be made on this slate, is what do we do with the Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah, I definitely worry about too big of a blowout too quickly, and then we don't get what we want from the majority of the players in this game. Somebody will step up and probably still do well, but when it's that big of a blowout, it tends to as opposed to like a shootout where it could be a bunch of guys still make value and even exceed it by a good margin, like the LA Rams game against KC. Multiple guys. Kelsey got off, Tyreek Hill got off, Mahomes got off, even Chris Conley. But when you get to be a blowout, maybe it's only Kareem Hunt and everybody else is a bust, or maybe it's only Tyreek and everybody else is a bust. So then you're kind of left with a 1-4 or 1-5 dart, and that's not a good feeling. So, yeah, I think it's a blowout. I think it gets out of hand quick. I think we could see a lot of guys like Spencer Ware in this game, or Demarcus Robinson filling in, Demetrius Harris. I don't think they push Kelsey, Tyreek Hill. These guys could still come out in that first half and get their big points, but I don't think there's a huge ceiling on these guys this week. So I'm a little worried about that. I don't know. Maybe Kareem Hunt would be my preferred option here, but I worry that at these price tags, you need a lot more. Tyreek Hill is 9.1. Yeah. I can't think of another time when he was that high. That's like elite Antonio Brown type numbers, and we could only really be throwing for one half of football here. So I don't know, man. I'll probably have to pass on some of these huge salaries and then hope that the blowout comes and that they don't reach their true ceiling.
Tyreek Hill, $800 more than any receiver on DraftKings this week. Michael Thomas checks in at $8,300. Patrick Mahomes, $1,000 more than any other quarterback, $1,000 more than Cam Newton. Kelsey, $400 more than Ertz. So Hunt seems like the guy people go to, but $100 more, you get a guy like Saquon Barkley. So you love the spot, and maybe they put 42 on him in the first half and you get your numbers, but seems like a risky proposition. Derek, where do you come out on this with these Kansas City Chiefs as big favorites on the road?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot, obviously, for the Chiefs, but just question is whether or not the starters are going to be in there the whole game. But if this game does stay competitive, you're going to have to get exposure to the Chiefs. Huge implied total. They have a 70% pass rate over the last 4 games. That could have something to do with their opponents, but Oakland is dead last in DVOA against the pass. So I really do like the spot for Mahomes and all of his pass catchers. It kind of does make sense to play Hunt here since they're going to be ahead and they might be running the clock out a little bit. But yeah, I just don't know if I like him as much as some of the other running backs in the slate. So for me, I'll probably just be doing a bunch of different tournament lineups with some Chiefs stacks. Don't mind going to Hill because nobody's going to want to pay that price for him. Don't mind going to Kelsey. The last time we saw him, he had the big game against the Rams, and before that he was kind of quiet against the Cardinals. So maybe he flies under the radar a little bit. Tight end's typically a position everyone wants to pay down at. And as I mentioned in part 1, this is a pretty good week for tight ends. So I think you're going to get the Chiefs at lower ownership than usual, even though the matchup is arguably better than it normally is. And they're playing on the road. So maybe the Raiders find a way to keep this one fairly competitive. As for the Raiders, not really anything that I like here. maybe take a shot on Marcel Aitman. Had 10 targets the other last game against the Ravens. So he'd be the one guy that I'd try to bring it back with. Maybe Seth Roberts too at 4K, but Aitman seems to be the guy that could be gaining some steam here a little bit towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I'll add Jalen Richard into that mix. Didn't do much in that last game, but it's a team. That's the problem here. Is you want to stack up Kansas City. Who do you run it back with the Raiders? So I like the Aitman call. It's a guy they like a lot. And what do they have to lose? Roll these young receivers out there and take a look. But tough to get excited about the Raiders, guys. And let's go to a much better competitive game, Derek. Minnesota and New England here. Vikings got it done at home against Green Bay. New England went to New York, beat the Jets. The one thing that stood out here, the total seems a little low in this game. I would have thought for sure this would be a 53, 54. We're sitting at 48.5 in this game. So does that give you any pause for concern here? We know that the names for Minnesota. It's Cousins, Cook, Diggs, Thielen. New England, same thing. We know all the cast of characters should be offensive fireworks. That total just smells a little low to me. Any concern there, Derek?
Yeah, the total does seem low to me too. I'm guessing that throughout the week it's going to go up a little bit because I think I like both of the passing games in this one. The Pats don't really get any pressure on the quarterback and just sets up as a really good spot. This is a game where we could see double-digit targets for both Diggs and Thielen, so you can play both of them. And obviously, if we like them, then we're going to have to like Kirk Cousins as well. Not too interested in the running game. Dalvin Cook didn't really take hold of that role. Kind of like I was expecting him to against the Packers. We ended up seeing a lot of Latavius Murray, especially in the fourth quarter. So for now, I'm going to be avoiding that situation, but I do like the trio of Cousins, Diggs, and Thielen. And then for the Patriots, it's just the same problem as always. I don't know who to trust in this offense. The running backs never quite know who's going to get all the work. Michelle's going to get most of the carries, but then Burkhead's going to be back in the mix, it looks like, as well. So for me, going to be avoiding those running backs and maybe take a shot on Josh Gordon once again. I know we'll probably get Xavier Rhodes, but I'll take his chances one-on-one against anybody. We saw Gronk finally look pretty decent last week. I'm not sure I'm going to be paying up for him just yet, but maybe there's a little bit of gas left in that tank.
Yeah, 5,400 is still a nice price on Gronk. So, I think if you want to go back to that, well, I had a lot of him last week. It started out good, got the touchdown, was hoping for more, but, it's one of the better games he's had recently. So we'll take it in that 5,400. I'm definitely interested in going back to that. Well, Chop, Vikings, we know you love some Stephon Diggs. We know he's been playing extremely well, remains cheaper than Adam Thielen. So thoughts there on the passing game. And then New England, what do we do? There's a ton of ways we can go here. Derek mentioned Burkhead back, throws another wrench into the running game. So parse through those New England Patriots for us as well.
This is the most stackable and best fantasy game of the day, in my opinion. Just my opinion, but I think this is it. From the Minnesota side is, always good in games like this because it's so concentrated. It's going to come from Cousins, Thielen, and Diggs. Like Kyle Rudolph, Laquan Treadwell, those guys never get there in the passing game. The only thing you ever have to worry about is Dalvin Cook vulturing something, and I don't think that happens this week. So love that Minnesota passing attack. On the New England side, oh, man, there's so many options here, but I agree with Noto in the Josh Gordon. I'm not worried about matching up with any particular cornerback. I think Gordon's matchup proof. Edelman looks good. If James White had not had that explosion earlier this year when Michelle was out, everybody would be looking at James White going, oh, James White, this sets up for a great James White game. It's Minnesota. They're not going to run the ball straight at Minnesota. They're going to use James White out of the backfield. That's what's going to happen again. It's just that he's 6,500, and we've seen the best out of James White, so nobody plays him anymore. But this is a James White game, so I think you can play James White on DraftKings and get your point per reception and get your 8 receptions and hope he gets in the end zone. So I like Brady, James White, Gordon, Edelman. I can probably pass on Gronk in this game, and Chris Hogan and those other guys, but I think it sets up very nicely for both passing games.
Yeah, James White, a guy nobody will play. So I like that call. Vikings, the middle of the road against pass-catching running backs here as far as yardage allowed. So certainly could set up that way, but I think there could be more points here. Again, the total seems low. It's discouraging, but I think this game could definitely go into the 50s. And I agree, Chop, very stackable. We know where the production's going in Minnesota. It's figuring out the New England side of things, but plenty of options to go there. I like Gronk to be the guy for New England. All right, last afternoon game, San Francisco and Seattle, so a divisional game here. San Francisco, let's swirl in the drain here. They're going to go back to Nick Mullins for some reason. CJ Beathard, I thought, would get the start here, but it was Mullins announced the starter. Going into Seattle here, Chop. Tough draw there. Tough to get too excited about anybody not named Matt Breida or George Kittle there. And in Seattle, what do we do here? The passing game's starting to come alive. We know they want to run the ball. They got 3 running backs that they utilize. Favorite pieces here for Seattle because I think there will be offensive production. Just not sure where it's coming from.
Yeah, this is a tough game for San Francisco on the road. So I probably don't have a lot of interest in that offense at all. Maybe you could go to George Kittle, but you're not getting any massive discount on him or anything. But he's about the only offensive weapon I have any interest in. I give a tip of the cap to Seattle, man. I didn't think they had a good team starting this year. I thought they were going to be terrible. I mean, a 3 or 4 win team, and they're a playoff contending team right now. Not saying they're going to get there. I don't think they do. But they're contending at least right now. And I don't know how they're doing it really. They revamped their offensive line. They can run the ball. Russell Wilson's obviously a very good quarterback, and he peppers these mediocre receivers and gets the job done. So props to him. So I think Tyler Lockett is my preferred receiver option here. Chris Carson, my preferred running back, but I could probably fade the running game here altogether and fade Russell Wilson because they just don't pass enough anyway. So I guess, Tyler Lockett, I don't know, man. I don't want to take the easy way out and not say anybody's name. But then again, I don't want to give you a guy that I really can't see myself playing anybody from this game. Seattle just slows it down and runs the ball so much these days. Are they really going to struggle with San Francisco in Seattle? I doubt it. It's at 10 points. I could just see them grinding this thing out with 3 different running backs, and you have no idea who's going to get the production, and nobody ends up with a good fantasy game. So, honestly, I probably wouldn't take anybody from this game, but the guys I mentioned are the guys I'm most likely to play if I did.
Yeah, Doug Baldwin stands out to me. 5,500 it is still a nice price on him. 17 targets over the last 2 weeks, so maybe he can kind of get back into the role that we've seen him play in the last few years. But it's still a team that loves to run first, Derek. So do we attack the running game here? Do we attack some of these receivers, Lockett, Baldwin? Or are you staying away from Seattle and San Francisco? Tough to get excited about them.
Yeah, pretty much a stay away from me on San Francisco's side. Going to keep an eye on Goodwin and Garcon. If they're both out again, then I do think you can look at Pettis and Bourne. Last week everyone played Bourne, and it was Pettis that went off. So maybe you go back to Bourne if Garcon and Goodwin are both out again. But for the most part, not a ton of interest on San Fran's side. And then kind of agree with you guys on Seattle. They have a very slow-paced offense, and they like to spread it around. You guys mentioned Baldwin and Lockett, but David Moore has been getting more and more involved recently. He has 13 targets, got that big touchdown last week. So I think a lot of people will look to Moore. I probably lean Baldwin of the 3, but probably can't see myself playing any of them in terms of a core play or anything like that. Wilson, he does tend to show up in the second half of the season. He's been playing well. He has at least 2 touchdowns in 7 straight games. But, yeah, I'm going to lean toward the running game as well. I think Chris Carson's going to have a pretty good game. The question is whether or not we can play him on DraftKings, where he pretty much has to score a touchdown if he's going to exceed value at that price point. He doesn't do a lot of work in the passing game. So, for me, not a ton of interest, but kind of agree with you guys. There's some decent fringe tournament plays, but nothing that really stands out.
A little narrative. Dante Pettis played at Washington, so going back up to the Northwest. So maybe there's some narrative there. But again, tough to get too excited about the Niners. But cheap, there's value if you're stacking San Francisco or Seattle. I think you do take a shot on a Pettis or a Bourne. All right, guys, let's move on to Sunday night. This one should be fun, Derek. Chargers going into Pittsburgh. So 2 teams very much in the mix here in the AFC. Chargers, we know, lost Melvin Gordon. I think the question here is Austin Eckler going to be 1,000% owned on this showdown slate?
Yeah, he's probably going to be 1,000% owned, but I don't think we have the prices just yet. Hopefully they'll bump up his price when they do release that pricing. As far as the Thursday to Monday slate, makes a lot of sense to just play that and keep a spot open for Eckler in your cash games. He makes a lot of sense at 5,400 in that Thursday to Monday slate, but a lot to like in this one. You mentioned it. Could see a little bit more from Rivers. Now that Melvin Gordon is out, you can pair him up with Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, any of his pass-catching options, really. As far as the Steelers go, I think this is the spot where James Conner finally gets going. I mean, he's got 2 quiet games in a row, but we know that he is a workhorse running back, and if they can get that running game going a little bit, maybe they'll lean heavily on him. They probably should have done that a little bit more last week against the Broncos when they had a chance to tie it there at the end. But, yeah, a lot to like here. I still prefer Antonio over Juju, especially since they're going to be pretty closely priced together. And Vance McDonald, if he's able to go, I like him quite a bit. He's been seeing more and more snaps over the last few weeks. So it seems like he is kind of their main tight end over Jesse James now.
Being a parent can be really challenging. It's normal to feel uncertain about whether you're doing the right things to raise healthy and happy children. That's why Child and Family Resource Network focuses on connecting pregnant parents and those with kids under the age of 5 with free support services to help them build confidence in their parenting journey. Everyone deserves to have someone they can turn to for support with parenting. Visit childandfamilyresourcenetwork.org today.
All right, Chop, Sunday Night Football and the Chargers. I did a show earlier with Dan Bach, and he brought up Justin Jackson, and I agreed completely. A guy that you're probably familiar with in college football days. Northwestern seemed like he was there about 1,000 years, but I think he could be intriguing. Everybody's excited about Eckler, but Jackson's going to get some work here as well. So thoughts on him? Could he be the sneaky play in the showdown? We don't have pricing yet, but I don't see him being very highly priced, just 3,600 on this Thursday to Monday slate. So thoughts there, thoughts on Eckler, his ownership, and then Pittsburgh. Is it Connor? Is it Brown? Is it Juju? Or a full-on onslaught here for the Steelers?
I mean, it's a showdown slate, so there's always merit. I don't care who the player is. There's always merit to fading a guy who could be 95% owned. I mean, and that's really probably what he'll be, 90 to 95%. I don't care how good he is. There's always merit on a showdown slate. If this game were part of the 13 games regular slate, then I would probably lock in Eckler. I mean, just push the lock button on him. But in the showdown slates, like you said, there's merit to fading him and putting in Justin Jackson and hoping something happens right there. You get catch a little magic in that bottle one time, and that's how you win those things instead of tying, like literally 2,000 ways. So, yeah, there's merit to Jackson. Eckler's always, that's a fine play, but showdown slate, you can fade him. Keenan Allen, I think, is my most desirable play on the Los Angeles Chargers side would be Keenan Allen. So I could go there. I think it's going to be a big Rivers and Allen and Mike Williams game or Tyrell. I actually think that the running backs are going to take a back seat in this game. So I like the passing game for LA. And Pittsburgh at home is a juggernaut. Another game where if this was on the main slate, you could see stacking up Pittsburgh with, those quarterback RB wide receiver stacks for Pittsburgh. They've won tournaments the past 3 or 4 years, just stacking up the whole team in games like this. This is going to be one of those games for Pittsburgh, I think. Problem is it's a showdown slate, so you got to be a little different. But I think it's a big game for this offense. You got to find which way it is. And, man, you'd be hard-pressed to tell me that Antonio Brown's that much better than Juju right now. Juju's, so good, man. Just so good right now. So I love that guy. So I don't know, man. I think I might have a new favorite wide receiver, man.
That dude's 21 years old, I think.
He's unbelievable.
Maybe not even 21. I mean, he's got a bright future, no doubt. So should be a fun game for sure. I mean, two teams that, this could shoot out as well. 52, about where the total stands. I think this one could go over the total pretty easily here. So I'm with you. I'm more in favor of the passing game here. But don't hate that James Conner call. Justin Jackson, keep an eye on that one. Keep an eye on that price for that showdown slate. All right, let's wrap it up here, Chop. NFC East, Monday night, we got Washington and Philadelphia, two teams trying to stay alive here. Washington obviously sitting pretty here. Philadelphia fighting for their lives, but Washington hits the road. They lose their quarterback. How do they respond here with Philadelphia? And can we go back to Philadelphia? Can we go back to Wentz and Ertz? It's been somewhat of a disappointment the last couple weeks, but Monday night, do they get it going again?
Oh, 100% Philadelphia is going to roll Washington in this game. Just roll them. There's not even a question in my mind how this game plays out. Don't like any of the Washington side. I think Colt McCoy brings down the pass catchers who already weren't that good anyway, brings them down. I mean, just like we saw with Eli, a poor quarterback, even with a suspect secondary on the other side, a poor quarterback can just totally eliminate that advantage you have. And I don't think McCoy's that good of a passing quarterback. He can run and scramble a little bit, but don't think it's enough to pull it out here. Peterson won't be able to get going. It's a showdown slate, so you got to play one of these guys. If I'm going to play anybody, it's probably going to be Jordan Reed, who's the most likely to have a decent game here, but I don't like the Washington side at all. I think Philadelphia rolls him. When I'm stacking this game up, I'm going 5 Philly players and 1 Washington player. The 5 Philly players, you could go any combination you want. I think any of them's just as likely to do well as the other ones. Josh Adams is the guy everybody will play. He'll be the most popular pick in the game. But I could see fading him because it's a showdown slate. If this were that 13 game, Josh Adams would be a guy I'd block into like 60 or 70% of my lineups. But on a showdown slate, I can fade the guy. I actually like Golden Tate quite a bit here. Probably going to get the better matchup quarterback-wise out of anybody on the team. They're trying to find targets for him. I think this is the game he gets it going. So I'll roll with some Golden Tate.
Yeah, Corey Clement kind of feels like the Justin Jackson, like we just talked about. Everybody going to be on Adams. The price looks cheap on the full slate. We'll see if they bump that up for the showdown slate. But Clement, a guy that got a little bit more involved. We know he's good in the passing game and good around the end zone. So I think he could be the sneaky cheap play here. Derek, same question to you. Wentz, it's been a struggle the last few weeks. Ertz, we saw him bounce back a little bit last week, put up a nice score, but I feel good about going back to that well. And any more excitement for this Washington side than Chop has. I think I'm in the same camp. Tough to get so excited about some Redskins here.
Yeah, I mean, for the showdown slate, we got to take somebody. For the Thursday to Monday slate, I think you avoid Washington completely. But for the showdown slate, I think there's some interesting plays. I mean, Josh Doxson saw 10 targets last week. He's kind of their deep threat. We know Cole McCoy, he's not great, but he'll at least take some shots, unlike Alex Smith. Downfield a little bit. Jordan Reed has come alive a little bit the last 2 games, 13 catches for 146 yards. He is listed as questionable. I think he missed practice on Monday, so if he's unable to go, then you can fire up Vernon Davis. And Trey Quinn, I mean, he's slowly coming along a little bit. He's kind of their shifty slot receiver. I don't think he's a terrible play either. But for the most part, it's going to be a Philly onslaught for me as well. I do like Josh Adams. He's going to be very popular, obviously, but Washington 28th in DVOA against the run. Adams got 22 carries last week, and then Doug Peterson came out and said he wants to get him even more touches moving forward. So unlike you guys, I do think I will be playing, or at least hitting the lock button on Adams. Agree with Chop on Tate. They are trying to get him the ball. He has 16 targets the last 2 weeks, and he should avoid Josh Norman. He should be on the outside against Alshon Jeffrey. So like that call quite a bit. Ertz always in play regardless of the matchup. And Wentz, it's a pretty good spot for him as well.
And keep an eye on some of the injuries. Peterson, Chris Thompson, both questionable. So we'll see. They may be thin in that backfield once again for Washington. But that'll wrap us up here for the football for Week 13. Guys, we did it. We made it through each and every game. Go back to part 1, and that's where we covered Thursday night and all the early games for the main slate. Any final thoughts here, guys? Any bold calls you want to make about the football? We got a few user questions we'll answer. We'll get an update on some holiday stuff here as well. But final thoughts on football. Derek, anything here? Bold calls, hot takes. Floor is yours, sir.
All right. As far as bold calls, I'm going to go Tyreek Hill over 200 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Raiders. And then I will say Jacksonville pulls off the upset. That division is always so crazy. I'm going to say they pull off the upset at home thanks to some strong games from their running backs.
Homer alert. Homer alert. So you're paying that price on Tyreek then, 9,100. I think people will avoid it. So, yeah, in tournaments for sure. I mean, he's got more upside than anybody at that position. So I like that call. Chop, bold calls, hot takes. The floor is yours.
I'll go with a bold call that Lamar Jackson just can't quite get it going rushing, and that makes him a huge bust this week, who runs for less than 40 yards and passes for less than 150 yards, and everybody's crying about it in that match. I know you're going to be crying, Derek. I don't even know if it's that bold of a call. I just don't trust him. That's really the way I feel. So I don't know, man. And how about Odell Beckham gets shut out? He gets held to 0 catches, and then that's it. He throws a temper tantrum in the post-game press conference.
There you go. I like it. I was going to go Homer as well. It's Aaron Jones. Feel good about him. Philip Lindsay, like him. I'm just going to go bold with something I talked about earlier. the Lions are going to beat the Rams. I don't know why. It's just a Lion-esque thing to do. So I think you want some exposure. Obviously going to be a shootout, but I think the Lions end up winning that game. We'll say Kenny Golladay ends up as the highest producing wide receiver on this slate as my bold call. So let's get to some user questions here again. We're lacking in this department, guys. We got to step up our question game, but we got a few here. So this one's interesting. This is one that we didn't get to last week, but if you could go back in time and give the other two OGs a different username, what would it be? Chop, any thoughts here? You're the creative one of the group.
Yo, I don't. That's a really tough one. I don't think. I mean, when you see your usernames aren't bad. Like there's some guys out there that are really, really bad. Those are the guys you want to target and get new names to. But those names y'all have are pretty adequate. And after all these years, they match you. So what can I can't. There's no other names I could give you. Like one guy is Notorious, the other guy is Beer. Like that's it. So what can I do? There's nothing. No, I can't change those names. Now you give me like Dan Bach. He just DB. Here's my username DB. Now that can be changed. That could be Powder. He should be Powder 77 or something like that. Like but not y'all's two names are just that they are what they are. They're perfect. That's who you are.
I'm having the same issue because you're Chop, you're Noto. It's just Dan was the one I was going to bring up, the Siege. Maybe we can spell check that baby and get it spelled properly. But
spell check.
Derek, any usernames out there you change or ours? You got any different names for us?
I feel like Dean could use a new one.
Oh,
Dean
yeah.
57920.
Too many numbers there. Just want to get all technical on them.
I like your guys' a lot. Beer maker fan. I mean, you're just a big cuddly guy, so maybe we could add some cuddly beer maker or something. And then
buddy.
Derek's getting that lotion and towels out.
He's getting that Dwight Howard complex.
Oh. Anyway, yeah, Chop, I like
Throw him for a loop there. I didn't think we were going to bring up Dwight Howard today, but there he is. So Derek,
next question.
while we transition from that.
Speaking of transition, Dwight Howard.
Yeah, let's leave that alone. We might get in trouble talking about too much Dwight Howard here. So he followed it up though. Holiday bonus question: do you decline to-go plates from relatives if you know you won't eat it, or do you just take it and trash it? I think this is a great question.
It's a very realistic question, and I take it. And if I'm not going to eat it, I take it. I get home, and about 5 minutes later, I trash it. But you always got to be polite and accept the food.
I'm in the same boat. It's hard to say no. Usually they're pushing it. It's Granny pushing, some more pie or some more turkey. I mean, what are you gonna say? You can't say no. So even if you're not gonna eat it, I'd say take the plate. Derek, thoughts there on the leftover plates?
Yeah, when it comes to my mom or dad, I just say keep it. I'm not gonna eat it. If you want to throw it away now, that's fine. I mean, I'm not gonna eat it. But anyone else, I'll just be polite and take it.
All right, this one's fun. We're going to play a little backyard football. So from Bob Estrada, pretend here you're the free safety in a backyard holiday football game where all current DFS players are playing. Who would you want running that blow-up route right in front of you? I love this question. You guys got to have somebody. Derek, who you blowing up?
I don't have anybody. I love everybody.
I knew you were going to answer that. Chop, you got somebody here.
Sure. I have no problems at all blowing out Britt Devine. I mean, if one guy is coming across the middle, I'll take them. And please let him be wearing those Mickey Mouse ears when I do it. It just gives me a little extra motivation for sure.
Oh, that was going to be my answer. Britt in the Mickey Mouse ears. That is outstanding. But a lot of candidates, so I can't narrow it down to one. I feel like Derek here. A few guys that could get blown up, but I'll stick with Britt as well in the ears. So let's see if we got any other questions here. All right, we've had this similar question, but we'll answer it again. Would you take $1 million from a winning DFS lineup, but you could never have any form of sex with your wife or any woman ever again? I'm going to say hell to the no. Ever again? I mean, $1 million sounds nice, but no, I'm good. Chop?
No way, man. No way.
What if it's let's say 100 million? Let's make
There's
it
no dollar amount, Beard. There's no dollar amount.
I wanted to test you. I'm in the same boat, man.
Yeah, you don't have to test me.
Say $1 trillion, I'm out. Derek?
Yeah.
Is there a dollar amount it would take? Let's ask that.
No, there is no dollar amount. Even though I ask for extra lotion and towels every once in a while, no, I would not take that.
Yeah. No.
Hey, listen. Like, money it's fine, it's good, and when you have it and you say it doesn't matter, it's because you have it. But the truth is, none of that really matters. Like, enjoying your life, this journey that you're going to be on here till you die, until you get older, you got to enjoy it, man. If you can't do the things you like, what good is money, man? You can't die with that money. It doesn't do anything. Once you listen, if I had $1 billion when I died, you would think that would be great for the kids, but in all honesty, I wouldn't leave it to the kids. I don't know if I told you guys this before, if this was brought up, but I wouldn't even leave it to my kids, because that would create like this sense of entitlement and not having to work hard. The hard work and all that stuff that goes into making it is what is part of the life. That's what's fun about life. That's what makes you appreciate when you finally get there. So money is nothing, man. Y'all can have the money. I want to enjoy it, and having that the sexy time on the weekends, that's part of life's enjoyments, man.
All right, don't take that away. I mean, you keep your money, man, no doubt. So, Chop, let's get an update on those holiday lights. I know people
not quite in progress yet. Not quite. I'm still trying to design. I'm laying out the design. I got the plans in place. I just need to run to the store and find the right lights for. I have 2 big windows that I want to fill. It's like prime real estate on the Las Vegas Strip. Somebody's got to be there. It's got to be filled. And these windows in the front of the house, I've got to fill them with something. That's what I'm working on right now. So once I get that down, probably by this weekend, I'll be having some major lighting issues working up here.
And I did see a tweet from you that I agreed with 1,000% when these lights all get hooked up and everything, and there's about 10,000 stops in the house before you go to bed of things you have to turn off, unplug. That always lands on our plate. So I'm feeling that. The inside is done, no outside lights yet. Same, planning things out probably this weekend. Derek, got those lights up yet?
No, and it is supposed to snow Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if I don't get up there tomorrow, it might be a while.
All right, so we better get out of here. We better wrap things up, guys. Any final thoughts, anything you guys want to talk about? Chop, I know you just gave us a little life lessons there, so maybe not much left from you. Derek, anything you want to cover before we get out of here for Week 13?
Well, we're not getting many good questions these days, so maybe Chop can come up with some questions for us next week.
There we go. And we'll come up with our own damn questions.
Put the pressure on me, huh, man?
Yeah. There you go, Chop. You got a job now. Not only planning out the lights, but questions. But we will be back next week. Of course, we appreciate you guys for tuning in to Week 13. If you guys have any questions, we're always available on Twitter. There's a little comment section right below the pods as well. You can answer your questions there. But always a great time, guys. Good luck in Week 13. Derek, hopefully you need some extra lotion and towels. Chop, hopefully you can plan out those lights and really do it up on that Vegas strip you got there at the household. But for Head Chop, for Notorious, I am here saying salut. Best of luck, guys, here in Week 13. We'll be back next week. We're out of here. We'll see you guys.